And welcome back to Pit Stop TV. We're going live to YouTube and Twitch once more tonight. Sorry for some of those technical difficulties before I saw us go live, then go back offline, come back online, go back offline a couple of times. Again, just some technical difficulties getting some things worked out here in the production booth. But Cole Freilich, we've got the SRCA Pro F2000 series back here tonight. This time we're at the Daytona road course, and we're actually not even just at the normal Daytona road course. This is the 2007, the legacy version of this speedway. It's going to throw some bumps literally in the road for these guys as they tackle this monstrous road course. So you're going to see some out-of-date signage, some out-of-date, track, some out-of-date grandstands, and the such, as we'll go ahead and roll down your grid real quickly. On front there, on your front row, though, it's going to be David Shutt, Scott McIntyre, then it's Nathan Lewis and Elijah Gracia. He comes in just a little ways out of the points lead. Roll back to row number 3. It's John Morgan, Daniel Falkingham, then Russ Addy, Aldis Putiklis, Spencer Madden, and Will Klein will round out your top 10.
And then followed by that, Ian Wilson starts 11th. Tom Mercier starts 12th. Michael Overbay starts 13th, but I believe he started from the pits this race. Richard Collum is going to start 14th. David Sarator is going to start 15th. Steven Turner, new driver to the series, is going to start 16th. Mark Bredbender, 17th. Sheldon Lockie, 18th. Nathan Fuller, another new driver, 19th. And Joshua Stevens in the 20th position.
We'll roll through the rest of the grid there on the top of your screen as the field gets ready to take the green flag. David Shutt leading us through the tri-oval for the first time tonight. Green flag falls on the field, and we are racing here from Daytona. Immediately they go single file up at the front, but the rest of the field vying for position as they get ready to transition back down onto the flat. What would usually be the apron for their oval as they go around turns 1, turns 2. The S's here as you enter the infield at Daytona and head down to the International Horseshoe.
And David Shutt's got a pretty good gap over here over Scott McIntyre early on. David Shutt, this is his first career start, so already good to see him making a showing out here in front of the guys like we usually see up front, like Scott McIntyre and Aldis Putiklis, as they're heading to turn 5 now. We got a side-by-side battle behind them between Elijah Gracia and Daniel Falkingham. It looks like Falkingham's going to get that before they head into the NASCAR section of the track.
And a battle behind that going to be John Morgan and Aldis Putiklis. Those two side by side through the infield portion of the speedway as they enter back onto the oval. The advantage is going to go to the 666 of Putiklis. He's going to take that spot as the rest of the field get a single file out around NASCAR 1 and 2, building up speed on the banking, building up a draft as these guys punch a hole through the air. A pass for the lead possibly. Here comes Scott McIntyre. He drafts up to, goes alongside of David Shutt, trying to take that position away into turn number, going to be the bus stop actually. I wasn't going to say a turn number, but that's just the bus stop. David Shutt gives it to him. So the Shuttinator, as Spencer Madden has started calling him, going to give that spot up, then gets a run back on Scott McIntyre. He overtakes him out of the bus stop. So back onto the oval here as the 42 takes the lead. Here comes Daniel Falkingham making it 3 wide through the oval out of oval 4. Already first lap, 3 wide battle for the lead.
3 wide with Daniel Falkingham on the outside, heading off at NASCAR turn 4. It looks like Falkingham could lead the first lap of this race at the stripe. It will be Daniel Falkingham with David Shutt behind him, Scott McIntyre in third. They're going to be 3 wide heading into turn 1. Somebody's got to back out of this. Daniel Falkingham does. Still side by side. McIntyre in the dirt will take the lead, kind of swing it wide. Here comes David Shutt back low through the turn 2 and heading down to the International Horseshoe.
David Shutt certainly seems to be the fastest one so far throughout the field. Granted, not the greatest control. He took the pole, though, so that certainly says something for him as McIntyre actually loses some time out of the International Horseshoe down through the kink. Falkingham do his inside, side by side for P2, as they're actually going to get a bit of a run on Shutt. I think he lifted a little bit early there to settle the car down. The rest of these guys battling, taking what they can. As Falkingham going to slot back into P3. Aldis actually comes up on the outside for a moment there of the 20 car of Falkingham and backs out before turn 6, though, as, David Shutt gets loose out of turn 7 up onto the oval, and that's going to give the spot to McIntyre. But watch this draft. These guys are going to come in and make some passes here by the bus stop.
And that was a classic case of probably getting on the brakes too hard, pitching the back end of the car around, and Luckily, David Schutt was able to catch it. It's very hard to catch these cars sometimes, especially on this bumpy version of Daytona. We kind of took Doc Brown's time machine, went back about 10 or so years, and we almost had it.
Whoa!
Oh, David Schutt through the grass.
Yeah, that could have been a whole lot worse. You saw McIntyre trying to look for some daylight there and get by the 42. Shutt, though, going to hang on to the lead through the bus stop, but then challenged side by side out of the bus stop, down through oval 3 and 4, and here comes Puchiklis. He's going to hold back for now. Doesn't go 3 wide like Falkingham did the previous time by, and Falkingham going to stick back to the inside a little ways behind. Now he's going to go ahead and roll up underneath this 666 of Puchiklis a little bit. As side by side across the line, Shutt's going to lead that lap over McIntyre. As Elijah Gracia Tom Mercier sets your fastest lap. Almost contact between your lead, too. And these guys are just having draft battles for days right now as they go side by side into every single corner, it seems like, unless you're the leader.
And Daniel Falkingham actually took advantage of Scott McIntyre. It looked like his car got a little loose on the outside. They're a very bumpy course here, so it could definitely unsettle these lightweight Pro Mazda cars. And here soon we're going to have some new cars for this league, aren't we, Andrew?
Yeah, so iRacing is going to be rolling out a couple of new open-wheel cars. I'll be honest, I don't know a whole lot about them, so I'm eager to learn about them and eager to see them on the racetrack. But a couple of new Indy Lights cars coming to the service here soon. They've been in the works for a while, and they're soon going to replace these Pro Mazdas, which will become free if you've purchased the Pro Mazda within the last 2 years. So iRacing bringing us some updates in that category. Do want to quickly fade back to a couple of battles further back. Russ Addy, it looks like, to the inside of Elijah Gracia out of turn 7 onto the oval. John Morgan might follow suit a little further back. Tom Mercier, I mentioned him having the fastest lap on the racetrack so far. He's currently in 9th. David Sarator is currently 11th. Then a little further back, we have a couple of random cars just kind of strewn without. Mark Bredbenner, he's currently 12th behind Will Klein in 11th. Ian Wilson gives you 13th. And Nathan Lewis, Michael Overbay rounds out your top 15.
And then Joshua Stephen, he's new to the league as well. He's running 16th spot. Nathan Lewis, a guy who we usually expect to be up here. He's kind of in the floating around the top 15. But just battles all throughout the pack here, it looks like.
And so as the leaders side by side again, here comes Falkingham with a run to the top side. Going to make it 3 wide. No, thinks better of it. So side by side across the line. It's Shutt one more time. Puchiklis and Falkingham have reversed roles, though. Puchiklis on the inside this time for turn 1, as McIntyre challenges Shutt into the braking zone a little bit, then goes wide. So McIntyre going to lose both of those positions, fall back to 4th. Shutt retakes the lead as Puchiklis is now in tow. So move Puchiklis into P2, and he gets to go toe-to-toe with Shutt now as Shutt bobbles through the International Horseshoe, change for the lead.
And Aldous Puchiklis was actually the fastest car in practice, but we've seen Scott McIntyre try that turn 1 move twice already, but neither time it has worked out. So I wonder if the bumps on the outside there are just really unsettling his car if he hasn't figured out quite the line to take through there.
Well, this whole track, this version of this racetrack, the now legacy version of Daytona here on the iRacing Sim, is very bumpy everywhere. It doesn't matter if it's the oval, the apron, the infield, the pit road. Everywhere you go, this place is bumpy. Even the wall, even the fence is bumpy. So it's definitely going to play into how these guys get grip. The new Daytona, we covered that race a couple of nights ago, or at least that track a couple of nights ago with the Lucky Dog Sim Racing Group. As they took the GT4 and TCR cars there, and it was very smooth, but you still have some bumps there. I think it's just a characteristic of Daytona's infield. Is McIntyre going to get a run to the inside of Shutt side by side? No, he backs out at the last moment. You saw Shutt block down the back straightaway a little bit, and McIntyre thought better of it at just the right time, backs back out of there. 6 cars in a line, though, and then a gap back to P7. That's Elijah, but 6 cars in a line out of the bus stop.
And speaking of Elijah, Elijah's got company from Spencer Madden. He's just following in tow right now. It doesn't look like he's going to try to make a move. Now he will to the outside, see if he can get Elijah here going into turn 1. I believe Elijah's going to have to spot at the line, and Spencer's run's going to stall out, so he'll fall in back in line. But back to the front of the field, we got side by side for second place now. Scott McIntyre's taking over the lead. David Shutt makes the outside work on Aldous. So move him up to P2. Aldous goes back to P3, and Daniel Falkingham is 4th.
So McIntyre with the lead this time as they roll through the International Horseshoe, looking from the spotter stand here. Going to look back to this battle further back, actually, really for about the top 5 position. Russ Addy starting to hold off John Morgan, so Russ Addy making some big gains here. We see his teammate Scott McIntyre finally gets up into the lead through the infield section. A shot goes to the inside. Shut loose, spins through the grass, regathers it on the racetrack in the West Horseshoe. And that could have been a whole lot worse. I thought he was going to end up collecting Scott McIntyre in that spin. Thankfully, gains control of that 42 machine, gets back on the racetrack, and I think might have only lost 1 spot to Aldis Puteklis, as they're actually going to lose a ton of time overall to Scott McIntyre, who has checked out by over a second now, about a second and a third, second and a quarter. So big gains here for the 16 as the rest of the field kind of falls back after that big slide from David Shutt.
And Scott McIntyre, this is the best thing he needs to see right now because he's trying to climb out of a hole that he's put himself in this series after the last 2 races wrecking out. He's fell back to about a 20-point lead over Aldis Puteklis, who currently runs second, so he's going to try to claw and scratch to get those points back in the next coming races.
And you can see the point standings on the left side of your screen. I don't actually, no, sorry. Those are the IndyCar point standings. I totally forgot to update that. I think with some of the technical difficulties, because I entered the points in one of our overlays, and I think we had to use a different one. So unfortunately, I can't get you the points. But Cole, I think you've got those on your monitor. I'll give you a second to get that ready. But Puteklis actually blocks Shutt to the top side and then kind of reclaims his corner as they get to turn 1. These guys all filing in there. Falkingham going to take P3 from David Shutt. David Shutt might fall back to 5th here by the time they get to the horseshoe. Russ Addy trying to go around the outside. Not going to make it work. Here comes John Morgan. He made a big dive down to the bottom side there. Couldn't quite get there, though, as Elijah Gracia now going to look to the right side of him through the kink. Morgan's got the shorter line, but Elijah Gracia has the run, and he's still there going into the West Horseshoe, the 14. Going to have to back out as Morgan reclaims the racing line through the West Horseshoe, but some really good racing from these guys. A lot of checking up when they should. You know, you don't want to make too big a move too early as we get to 20 laps to go this lap around as we have a battle for the lead. Once again, Aldis Puteklis has caught Scott McIntyre.
And Aldis is drafting all the way up to the back, much like we saw in the Lucky Dog Sim Racing race Tuesday night. That was a late broadcast for us, but we saw the toe be a big factor here, and these cars punch such a big hole in the air. It's going to be a huge factor, especially in tonight's race. Aldis is going to ride behind. Looks like he may try a move in NASCAR 3 and 4 currently. Speaking of Aldis, he is the points leader. John Morgan, who we were focused on earlier, is second. Elijah Gracia, who is battling, is third. Scott McIntyre, fourth. Ian Wilson is fifth. James Miller is 6th, Russ Addy 7th, Harley Lewis 8th, Spencer Madden 9th, and Sheldon Lockie rounds out your top 10 in points currently.
And we're actually go on board here with Russ Addy, the number 111. This guy's actually been impressing me here so far today. He's certainly putting a decent run together right now, and he looks like he might be able to challenge for a decent position, maybe even a race win, as the leader is going to be 4 wide, maybe 3 wide. A Shutt goes through the middle. He's going to, he backs out last second. McIntyre decided he was going to go through on the bottom side. He saw that from the onboard of Russ Addy. That could have been a whole lot worse. They almost wadded them up a couple of times in one corner. And side by side, they went into the horseshoe again. Puteklis down on the bottom side. He's going to retake the lead, it looks like.
And we mentioned the rivalry that's kind of been brewing between Aldis and Scott. So they're going to go side by side. David Shutt and putting his nose in the party here. Looks like Shutt's going to try to get him on the outside. I don't think he can get it done. No, he won't. Aldis Puteklis is going to try to steal second from him with Daniel Falkingham following it in tow.
It's really tough to pass around the outside and the infield here. You've really got to have a really good run and a really good car to make it work. And with all these fixed setups here tonight, I don't know if you're going to make that happen. So Scott McIntyre going to check back out a little bit now. David Shutt going to be second. You see the black and green machine of Puteklis that we've come to learn a little bit. He's P3. He looks to the outside of Shutt. Falkingham sits fourth. Then it's John Morgan and Russ Addy behind them. So side by side go Puteklis and Shutt. Coming up to the bus stop, is Shutt going to dive? No, but he retakes second place, claims that corner for himself. So
John Morgan just crashed.
Oh, a spin for the 177. Yeah, he's stuck in those tire barriers. He's not going to be exiting. We'll go ahead and get a replay on your screen real quick.
I think he just lost the back end there due to the natural rear bias of these cars, and it just threw it around into the tires.
So we'll go on board here with the driver of the 177. This is John Morgan. He was having a really good night, having a pretty good season in the points up until this point, actually. As, just gets loose into the braking zone, spins out. You see the new Cooper tires getting stuck in those tire barriers. So that's going to be a problem there for the 177. He has to tow, and that car is going to be done.
Back to the battle at the front, though. David Shutt, Oldest Puticus. Oldest looking high. Can't get it. It's going to try to cross over. Scott McIntyre is there. Couldn't quite get it done. Everything's going to pan back out, exiting the International Horseshoe on the run up to turn 4. Oldest Puticus is going to try maybe to get the inside move done in turn 5. No, he goes to the outside. I think he's going to try that crossover move once again, but just can't get it done here in the infield portion of the circuit.
And just like that, I see an Elijah Grassi and Spencer Madden starting to reel back into this battle. Meanwhile, side by side almost into turn 6 and 7 there from, David Shutt and Oldest Puticus. Puticus gets back down to the yellow line now, going to look high, trying to take that draft around the top side of the oval. Scott McIntyre stays in the bottom, kind of looking at the middle. Here comes Daniel Falkingham, though. He runs right to the outside of the 16 cars. These guys all kind of having to check up a little bit. Puticus kind of has a lead, almost wheel-to-wheel contact there with McIntyre and Shutt. These guys very close together. No one really knows what to do. Puticus is just going to claim the bus stop for himself, retake the lead. A commanding move there from the 666.
And as Oldest Puticus just kind of shuts the door on everybody there, we should reiterate here that you cannot pass below the yellow line. So that's why we've seen every run move to the outside and why everybody's kind of blocking on the bottom. That was a big factor in the pre-race discussion of this before tonight. So can't pass below the yellow line, much like real NASCAR.
And we saw the leaders have that issue in the Lucky Dog race a couple of nights ago. But meanwhile, I want to mention that wing damage to the nose of the 42 car. That's going to hamper David Shutt the rest of this race. I don't know when it popped up, but the left side of that wing is a bit crimpled up. And meanwhile, Puticus loses a couple of positions. He's back to P3. So now McIntyre and Shutt going to battle as we have 17 laps to go. And keep in mind, we still have a pit stop on the way, which is really going to throw a wrench in things because this looks like 7-car group at the front, all going to have to come down the pit lane and decide when they want to do it, how much fuel to take. And the rest of the race lies really in their own pit stop, honestly. It's a matter of how good they are in the pit lane, not making mistakes, and that's really going to decide this race, I think, because the draft keeping these 7 together a lot more than you might see on a usual road course. So McIntyre going to lead the field back onto the oval. Russ Addy has moved into P4 behind Puticus and Shutt. That drops Falkingham back down to P5, Grassi is 6th, Madden 7th, so that's your top 7. Further back, David Serrator has fallen back to, well, it looks like P8, 18 seconds behind this group, so a big gap there.
Yeah, and behind him is Michael Overbay, who's got even a bigger gap. These two cars kind of all alone, both sponsored by Marlboro, it looks like. Then we cut back to Mark Brebender. He's 10th. It looks like everything behind this 7-car group is fairly just spaced out in single file.
So this realistically is your race on screen right here. These 7 cars realistically are going to be the rest of the excitement the rest of the night. Might have a couple of cars battle further on, but McIntyre defending the lead on the top side. He, Shutt's going to actually flip back around to the outside. He kind of crossed back over. He's going to get the run, and at the line is on the outside of the 16, but here come teammates on the bottom side. Russ Addy here to help Scott McIntyre, Puticus, and Shutt on the outside as they're going to single out a little bit for turn 1. Through the S's here that are just turn 2 pretty much, down to the International Horseshoe. Russ Addy into P3 behind David Shutt. Oh, and a complete dive bomb there from Shutt. I'm not sure what he was trying to dive bomb, maybe the air there. I'm not really sure, but he just completely missed the horseshoe and just went wide.
It looked like he was seeing an invisible car, wanted to take him out, but now Oldest Puticus on the inside on the run up to turn 5. Looks like he's going to get the spot. David Shutt still to his outside. There he goes finally. Daniel Falkingham looking to pick up 2 spots now as David Shutt throws a mean block heading into turn 6 and 7.
Well, he wanted to get back over to the right side and get a good run into turn 6, and he does just that. So Falkingham going to go around the outside actually behind Shutt, and he's going to take that spot over from Russ Addy, but obviously that draft going to bring Addy Falkingham, or sorry, not Falkingham, but Addy Gracia. There it is, and Madden right back to the 20 car. Meanwhile, Shutt and Puticlis nose to tail down the back straightaway, trying to draft back up to Scott McIntyre. That's a deficit of about 7/10 as they head into the bus stop. And Shutt's around and collects Falkingham. I don't think too much damage for the 20 machine, but David Shutt goes around. Falkingham, meanwhile...
Look at Spencer Madden. Oh.
I think Falkingham's nose is clean, but now almost 4 wide. These 4 cars just under a blanket right here as Addy's going to go through the middle. He's going to take those couple of spots back and clear the rest of those guys, but the draft going to bring Madden alongside of Russ Addy. That's for P3 now as we lose David Shutt and kind of blow this pack up.
Yeah, that was a very... Well, that incident's probably going to take David Shutt out of this race. But speaking of taking cars out of the race, John Morgan, Nathan Lewis, and Michael Overbay have all retired from this race. So first 3 retirees out of this 23-car field for tonight.
That's pretty unfortunate. A couple of really good names on that list. I do want to mention, we covered the Corporal... Spencer Madden goes wide. He's going to spin into the grass. I don't think he hit anything. But
throws it in reverse.
Yeah, he just got way too wide out of the horseshoe and just spun it, almost collecting Russ Addy. Meanwhile, the leader is going to be Scott McIntyre and Aldous Puticlis. Further back, you still have the 3-car battle now of Russ Addy, Elijah Gracia, and Daniel Falkingham. But I want to mention, we covered a couple, I almost said Corporal again, a couple of NORC races, this past weekend. We had the Indy cars at Texas and the Xfinity cars at Talladega. And Cole, we saw that David Shutt was fast in both, but definitely made a lot of big moves. Just seems to be his mantra, I guess, his thing. He just makes a couple of big moves. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It's side by side into the bus stop. Puticlis going to take that spot as McIntyre rolls out of the throttle, gives it to him. And they're going to line back up and keep drafting and probably keep playing leapfrog to draft away from the cars behind.
Well, you mentioned David Shutt. He's kind of known for that big kind of send-it move, as Daniel Ricciardo would say. He's not afraid to put the car where he thinks he needs to, he proved that Friday night when he put it in the grass on the inside of Nathan Lewis. Took both of them out of the race, unfortunately, but David Shutt's definitely one to just go for it and not really think about what the move's going to do in the end. Just try to get it done if it can.
Oh, absolutely. That's certainly been apparent watching Shutt race this last week or so. He definitely just wants to go for it as Puticlis, a big slide there through turn 1. Glad he hung on to it as he's going to keep chasing down Scott McIntyre now. Meanwhile, for P3, it's going to be Russ Addy, Daniel Falkingham, Elijah Gracia. Falkingham leapfrogs Gracia. Now he's going to go for the pass on the inside. Gets loose on corner exit. Going to have to sit back behind the 111 of Addy for one more corner at least as they run through the kink here in the infield down to the west horseshoe. Meanwhile, your leader's still nose to tail.
Yeah, and we did mention the rivalry earlier between these two. These two have just been wheel to wheel every single race we've had, especially in the last 2 races at Watkins Glen and Sonoma. Actually, contact between these two led to an incident with Scott McIntyre and Will Klein, who just dropped out of the race. So Scott McIntyre is definitely looking to keep all 4 wheels on the track. I believe he flew up in the air at Sonoma and Watkins Glen the past 2 weeks. So hopefully all 4 tires stay on the track tonight.
So the onboard here from the 666 of Puticlis as he drafts up to, that's a lapped car actually. I'm not sure who that was, but he got on the brakes quick and definitely threw a wrench in the plans for those couple of leaders as Puticlis runs wide, grabs a little bit of grass, but gets back on the racetrack, going to go back in pursuit of the number 16 of McIntyre. And we're coming to 13 laps to go of 25, so we're coming about to your halfway point. We're going to start to see these guys look towards the pit lane here soon, Cole, and that's really going to change things up too. It really could thin this field down of drivers who can win this race, or even bring a couple of guys back into the battle. Falkingham, Addy side by side coming through the tri-oval. I'm thinking of these guys when I say that. It might bring them back into this race, give them a chance to run for the win.
Well, hopefully neither of these two leaders pull what we saw Scott Ramler do last week at Monza and get a 40-second stop-and-go penalty for speeding on pit lane. These cars do have pit limiters, but sometimes people try to push it as far as they can on getting into the pits. So it's definitely possible to speed, but it's a thing you don't want to do, especially if you're in a points battle like Scott McIntyre and Aldous Puticlis.
And that lap car was Timothy Bates, the 25 car. He gives that that horseshoe back to these this top three, or not top three, but the rest of the top five we're looking at of Russ Addy through Elijah Gracia, throw Falkingham in that mix as he's going to go for the pass to the inside of Addy and going to clear the 111 for now. And Gracia is just kind of sitting back. Elijah's just sitting back, waiting for his time, I think, not really wanting to jeopardize that machine. We've seen these guys battle and get into a couple of hairy situations, i.e. David shot into the bus stop. So I think Gracia just wanted to sit back and wait for this race to come to him. Pretty good move there by him. Meanwhile, the leaders come up to a couple of lap cars.
Well, we mentioned Elijah kind of just waiting back there, but that's usually the style we see out of him. He's kind of just bides his time throughout the race and gets good results for it. That is the lap car of Joshua Stevens now in this lead battle. Is kind of holding up Oldest as a exit to NASCAR 3. A near call there, but that's going to allow Tom Mercier to get, I believe that's the battle for 14th on the track. Yes, it is. So Tom Mercier goes to 14th out of the little holdup there from Joshua Stevens.
Yeah, Joshua Stevens, brand new to the series, and I don't think that was intentional at all, obviously, but that definitely really split up your lead battle. That gap now going to be almost a second as they come across the start-finish line. So going from being nose to tail to separated by a second, it's great for McIntyre. Awful for Aldis Puteklis, and the Latvian not going to be happy with that as he runs wide through the grass out of turn 1. Oh, and he's binned it!
Aldis is wrecked!
He's completely binned it. He got loose out of turn 1. I mentioned he grabbed the grass, and he has completely lost control and shunted himself off into the turn 1, or the pit wall, really. So an unfortunate, I don't even know what to call that, but just an unfortunate wreck, obviously. A turn of events for Aldis Puteklis. We'll go on board with him here, as he ran wide and caught the grass and got loose. Oh, actually, no! He didn't even get loose. He jumped the end of the curbing. I've not seen a car do that in my time on iRacing, I don't think ever, but he just got shot straight sky high. We're going to watch this from the TV cameras here. Watch the 666, the black and green machine, obviously makes the mistake, runs wide out of 1, and then just up in the air. And I've never seen a car do that on the end of some curbing, but that was something. So Scott McIntyre is still your leader. He's now got a 5-second gap over now P2. Daniel Falkingham is a battle. Russ Addy, actually, no, not a battle. He's getting by Joshua Stevens, so Joshua Stevens gets in the way again. Don't think that's intentional at all. I don't think he wants to get in the way of these guys, but definitely holding them up. Meanwhile, we've had a pit stop. Elijah Gracia has come down the pit lane. David Serratore has also made his pit stop. Aldis Puteklis obviously now is towed into the pit lane. Tom Mercier has also made a pit stop. That was 5 laps ago. We'll see if he's good to go to the end on fuel. Not so sure. But Scott McIntyre back down into the infield one more time. 11 laps to go. That time by the stripe, and he continues to run around on the racetrack. Has not made his pit stop yet. Falkingham going to follow suit. Addy going to stay out as well. Even Spencer Madden, I think, is going to stay out for one more lap at least. Mark Bredbender, meanwhile, is the next driver after those top 5. He's currently P6. No pit stop from him just yet. As Gracia, it looks like, has just had an issue.
All right, sorry about that. We had some technical difficulties on my end, but I'm back now. Scott McIntyre looks to be staying out for the most part here, Andrew. Wonder if he's trying to stretch that fuel as far as he can go, but you got to think some of these guys are trying the undercut, like Elijah did.
And I'm trying to get to the 14 of Elijah Gracia. I can't seem to pull him up on my end, but we'll go back to the leader, Scott McIntyre. And yeah, we're just gonna have to see how long these guys stay out on the pit, stay out on the racetrack rather, as obviously you want to pick the right time to come in. Clearly, these guys, I think, deferring to go longer and run the fuel out as far as they can. Daniel Falkingham with Scott McIntyre in that, Russ Addy as well, Mark Bredbender still on the racetrack, Ian Wilson, Stephen Turner, Justin Ford. Meanwhile, looking for Spencer Madden. Okay, he's still P4. I'm totally losing my mind up here. Looking for race cars. Elijah Gracia, again. I keep losing the 14 car. I'm not sure if he's blinking or if he's bended or what.
I believe he is. He's had a connection issue, I believe, because he is not appearing on the racetrack. Oldest Puticlus back out on the racetrack, unofficially 11th place right now. So poor day for that number 666 machine. But oh, there it is. Elijah Gracia just had a connection issue there.
And the pit stop for Scott McIntyre, looking at him in the pit lane. We'll see how quickly he gets back onto the racetrack. Russ Addy joins him in the pit lane, so teammates coming in the same lap. But Daniel Falkingham going to stay out, and McIntyre out in 33.5 seconds total. A pit stop of 11.9. That was actually faster than Elijah Gracia, so he would have kept a massive gap, I think, over Elijah Gracia. Russ Addy's still in the pit lane, a long pit stop from him. A 22-second pit stop may have taken full fuel, and that's going to hurt that 111.
And indeed it will. It looks like Daniel Falkingham is going to be looking to come in here in a few laps. He's got Tom Mercier to draft with, trying to get every inch he can over Scott McIntyre while staying out. But I'm just wondering if the gap is too big for Daniel to try to chase unless without drafting help.
Yeah, I really don't know how that's going to play out. Obviously, he came in 5 seconds back, but he was with Russ Addy. Russ Addy now loses a bunch of time. He was with Elijah Gracia. Now Elijah Gracia, having connection issues, loses connection to the race. But he could pick up a couple of lap cars and make up some time. He could also just try to outpace the 16 of Scott McIntyre. McIntyre could absolutely get a little bit sedentary and start to just kind of get in a zone and run a little bit slower. We don't really know. We'll have to wait and see how he reacts to having that massive gap. As we're waiting for Falkingham to come in, he finally comes into the pit lane. The number 20, Daniel Falkingham, going to come in for service.
And he was very hard on the brakes, trying to get every inch he could there at the pit entry. So we'll see where Daniel Falkingham shapes out. Elijah's back, so he's going to be a few laps down, which is unfortunate for the number 14 machine, as Scott McIntyre should take over the lead here by a pretty commanding margin. Yes, he's now in the trioval, as Daniel Falkingham, I believe, is still on pit road.
Yes, watching the pit stop here for the number 20 of Daniel Falkingham. He's off and away, and that was faster than Scott McIntyre, but it's not going to be enough to overtake the number 16 through the pit lane. Certainly going to help him out, though. Faster in the pit lane, looks like by a second and a third. Faster pit stop by a second and a half. So a little bit slower in the pit lane overall, but a much faster pit stop. Again, a second and a half. We'll have to wait and see if he has enough fuel. You see Mark Bredbender also in the pit lane. See that at the top of the screen. We'll watch that pit stop in numbers. Meanwhile, Scott McIntyre, your leader, in starting to kind of figure out exactly what kind of gap he has back to Daniel Falkingham. It looks like it's going to be about 4.1 seconds, the margin between your top two.
And Scott McIntyre is actually going to have a little bit of drafting help from the number 66 car, Joshua Stevens. Joshua Stevens, he's one of the new guys that we mentioned earlier. We got about 4 or 5 new guys, I believe Elijah said, prior to the race. So that's really boosting the car count tonight, and it's it's good to see we have all these new drivers coming in weekly.
Yeah, we had a couple of issues there with car numbers, and certainly that's obviously picked back up. Some more cars filling out the field. About 20 cars took the green here tonight at Daytona. So it definitely helps to be at a free racetrack, but as we look forward to the rest of the schedule, hopefully that car number stays, as it looks like Scott McIntyre is going to get by that lap traffic, and Daniel Falkingham going to be the next to deal with it. That was the 66 of Joshua Stevens. We'll check and see if he's come down the pit lane. He has not, so he's still out there. That's why they're lapping him again. He should fall a lot further back as he has to come in for service.
Well, you mentioned free tracks. We actually go to another one for the next Pro Mazda race. That'll be WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca for the Grand Prix of California. So that's going to be an interesting race. We got 35 laps there, and it'll be the same time, same place, just 2 weeks from now here on Pit Stop TV.
So the leader is quite strung out. A 5-second gap almost between the top two. And then 13 seconds all the way back to Russ Addy for P3. Spencer Madden another 15 seconds back. And David Sarator rounds out your top 5. So this field is completely strung out. And I'm not so sure that anyone's really going to find each other. Obviously, this racetrack very heavy on the draft. And it's also a very familiar racetrack to a lot of drivers. Everybody pretty familiar with this place, I feel like. It's obviously Daytona 07, or well, 08, the legacy version now free. But I think everybody's come into contact with this racetrack at some point in their iRacing career, so it's going to be hard to force anyone into a mistake when you're so spread out like this. I just don't know if you're going to have it. Meanwhile, actually, I think a mistake out of Daniel Falkingham as he loses a couple of seconds to Scott McIntyre.
He had a big moment coming out of turn 6 and 7 into NASCAR 1. He got very sideways, was able to catch the car, but that cost him a lot of time. You talked about Daytona, and this track in general is so hard to win at, whether it's on the oval or the road course. You just have to be perfect to win a race here.
You definitely do, and you have to battle that. Obviously, the draft, you have to battle everybody being pretty darn good at this place, or at least serviceable, as everybody, again, knows this racetrack pretty decently. It's not all that hard, as Daniel Falkingham, I think, has gone into fuel-saving mode. He is just continuing to lose tons of time to leader Scott McIntyre. Now up to an 8-second gap. He has about 11 seconds to play with back to Rosati. I don't think he's taking enough fuel. I think he's trying to save fuel.
And, you know, it's a weird situation because we had a 7-car group at the start of this race, all nose to tail, and now it's almost spread out by an entire straightaway between the top 4. And by straightaway, I mean the entire super stretch here at Daytona.
We've gone from having 7 cars in a line to having 7 cars separated by over a minute 7 officially, between your top 7, then another 7 seconds back to Stephen M. Turner for P8. So we've definitely spread this field out. Your whole top 10 spread out by a minute 24. So this race quickly has gone from being massively exciting battles every corner through the infield to suddenly just, I'm not going to say a snooze fest necessarily, but certainly has calmed down quite a bit, and it's just turning laps at this point, minimizing your mistakes as a driver. As we see Daniel Falkingham exit turns 6 and 7, I really think he's trying to save fuel because he's losing more and more time. Now a 9-second gap between your top 2 as he's backing himself up to Russ Addy. He has 10.5 seconds to work with right now, as Russ Addy, I think, has to start focusing on running down that 20 as quickly as he can. 6.5 laps rather to do it.
Well, you talked about us having the 7 cars there. I think, honestly, the incident with David Shutt is what broke this field so far up, and then Oldest's crash definitely split everything up. Daniel Falkingham is wrecked in the bus stop. Daniel Falkingham lost the back end of the bus stop and is in the tires, so that's going to do him in for this race.
So speaking of David Shutt having issues, Falkingham looks like possibly did the exact same thing. We'll get a replay on your screen of what happens to the number 20 car here, what has ailed this machine. And coming down the back straightaway, we'll go on board with him here on the replay. As actually, he even has some damage beforehand, so he's obviously made some contact. That might also be why he was losing so much time, as, yeah, he just completely bends it, gets loose, and slaps the tire barriers hard. And the car is completely done. He was steering to the right down the straightaway to compensate for the damage. Now is steering full left just to try and get it around the oval, much less into the pit lane, as he has now actually made it to the pit lane, coming down to his pit box. But a massive issue for your second place driver. He falls back to P3 and is going to get passed by a lot of cars here, as most of the field should go by him.
Well, Spencer Madden goes into P3, but I'm very surprised to see who's in 4th place now. It's David Sarator. We saw him in his first start 2 weeks ago in Sonoma. And he was kind of a 10th to 12th place car that race, so it's really interesting to see him up front here tonight. Only his second start in the league, and he's putting on a great show, and Daniel Falkingham comes out right behind him in the 5th position. So Daniel Falkingham losing 3 spots there due to that incident.
So he must have had a fast repair there to help him out. He's only a second and a half behind the 13 car, so that's certainly going to help Falkingham out quite a bit. You mentioned Sarator, and he has definitely put on a decent show, even though he was, again, 18 or so seconds behind that battle when we still had the whole top 7 together. And a battle of attrition, certainly, as he's gone from 15th place on the grid to now P4 with 5.5 laps to go. So the 13 machine just outlasting the rest and should at least come away with a top 5, if not a top 4. It's a matter of how well he can stay ahead of Daniel Falkingham for that 4th spot.
And you mentioned it. It's been kind of a survival of the fittest. Most Daytona races, especially long endurance races like the Rolex 24 or the Daytona 500, those are wars of attrition. So we're seeing that kind of play out here in this short little 25-lap race here at the Daytona Road Course in Pro Mazdas. Next week, we will have the IndyCars at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. So that's going to be another war of attrition.
And if you think the draft was interesting today, it's going to be 5 times that at Indianapolis in the IndyCars. Obviously, the Indy 500 always known for just draft battles down the straightaway and outlasting the rest. So this race actually drawing a lot of parallels to what we'll see next week with the IndyCars. It's going to be obviously a lot shorter than the Indianapolis 500 that you see every May, aside from this year. But I still think it's going to be much of the same as a big mistake there from SRCA. Side by side through the infield. Falkingham looking for P4. He goes down to the inside. We stay on board with him for now, as it looks like, yes, he's going to clear that 13 machine and retake P4. Right behind Elijah Gracia, the 14 of Elijah Gracia, not for position, but now David Serratore has a chance to fight back.
I was going to say David Serratore in the Ayrton Senna livery, but almost called him Ayrton Senna there. But yeah, he's just kind of pacing behind Daniel Falkingham, who's in the Haas paint scheme. Nice to see these lovely liveries out here. Speaking of liveries, we got another beautiful paint scheme in the McLaren Mobile 1 car of Elijah Gracia right in front of them. But the battle kind of rages on between these two. It looks like David's going to get the run on Daniel, heading onto the backstretch and possibly into the bus stop.
And Gracia is going to go to the top side and lift there, Falkingham a little bit. We'll see exactly how these guys traverse this lap car of Gracia, because he has the pace to be up here battling with these guys for position, but obviously connection issues has sidelined that 14 for a couple of laps, gets back on the racetrack, and is now in the middle of these two battling for 4th and 5th, and it looks like Serratore going to back way out through the bus stop, loses a lot of time. And I think Serratore just isn't quite as fast as the 20 car Falkingham. So definitely I think what aided Falkingham in catching him so quickly is now Gracia going to draft to the inside of Falkingham. That's not for position, but certainly interesting to watch.
Yeah, Elijah's kind of just proving how the speed of his car right now. Daniel probably getting a little frustrated because he wants to go catch Spencer Madden, who's just now exiting turn 1 and going through turn 2, heading down to the International Horseshoe here. But Spencer's kind of got a top 3 locked up if he just minimizes mistakes. He's got about a 5-second gap over Daniel Falkingham. And then ahead of him is about a 12-second gap 14-second gap to Russ Addy.
Another battle on the racetrack to watch here as they exit Oval 4 is Aldous Puticlis and Stephen M. Turner. Stephen, one of the newer drivers, I believe, to the series, as he drafts up to the 666, falls in behind, kind of just lifts again for Puticlis and is going to let Puticlis have turn 1, so just trying to follow the Latvian and try to pick something up, maybe try to improve himself around this, I think, 11-turn road course roval, if you will. And going to lose a little bit of time, but I think is just trying to follow that 666. I noticed they were also close together along with that Falkingham-Serratore battle, so as we flip back up to that number 20, number 13 pack, they're still, well, actually, they were falling back behind Gracia. Gracia does the same thing. Looks like a replay of the previous lap. Goes to the high side out of Oval 2. Falkingham going to go by, and this time Serratore not going to sit back. He tries to go to the inside of Falkingham, and kind of I'm not so sure I agree with that block from Falkingham. That could have been a whole lot worse after we just watched him lose control because he took a corner normally going into the bus stop. That time flicks left and then flicks back right and unsettles the race car, but hangs on to it. I mean, it's a block. We're coming down to it. You kind of have to, do what you got to do to save positions, but still, that could have been a lot worse if you lost control again.
Well, we saw it Tuesday night. We had a block actually go wrong in the Lucky Dog Sim Racing race. Forget who was even in the battle there, but they tried to go low below the double yellow. A block was thrown, and they nearly both wrecked.
Those were your leaders, Basford and Aiken, and that was a lot of fun to watch. Had Aiken comment on the YouTube video once it was archived and talk to him a little bit. Hopefully we'll get to talk to him in future weeks. We head to Lime Rock next Tuesday. Looking for maybe a heat race format possibly to calm that down a little bit because there were a lot of cars that showed up for that race. Meanwhile, the Falkingham-Serratore battle continues to go on. Ian Wilson actually has been passed by Aldous Puticlis, so these two very close together on the racetrack, as it looks like Stephen Turner is down the pit lane for the first time. I don't think he realized you had to make a pit stop so early, so he finally comes down the pit lane. Stephen Turner going to lose tons of spots. He's back down to 13th now. Ian Wilson has lost that spot for 7th rather, so Puticlis goes by into P7. We'll see if he catches anyone else. He's got, it looks like 4 seconds to make up to Mark Bredbenner for the 6th place position, and I think that's as high as he's going to move up in this race, and even that's going to be a challenge.
Yeah, and this is really just damage control for Aldis because he had a 4-point gap over John Morgan, which luckily for him, John Morgan crashed out of the race. Elijah Gracia is actually narrowly in that battle. He's got an 8-point gap, so it's very tight between those two. Aldis really just trying damage control because he knows Scott McIntyre's gotten away with this one, but going to try to minimize damage to that 20-point gap that he had going into this race.
So the Latvian, he started 8th. He's actually picking up a position from start to finish here and might get another. So into 7th, not terrible for Puticlis, but definitely not what he wanted, having run so good earlier on, up into the lead at one point and battling with those leaders. Certainly not the way you want to cap off a night, but still should hold on to that point lead and actually extend it just a little bit, flipping back up to that battle with SRCA and Falkingham. These two are sticking like glue. It was actually a slow car. Oh my gosh, what are you doing? Get out of the way. SRCA's off.
And that's into the barrier. Well, not quite.
That's absolutely a direct effect of that car being slow ahead of him. I'm not sure who that was. Looks like maybe, yeah, it was a 24 of Nathan Fuller. He's new to the series. Again, I don't think that was intentional, one of the newer drivers, but you can't have that happen at all.
Yeah, that's just poor etiquette from the lap car. Usually we see them just let them go by in this series especially. So maybe he didn't get the memo. Spencer Madden's wrecked. Spencer Madden spun it out of turn 6 and 7. Daniel Falkingham's now going to take the 3rd away. So just when we thought Spencer Madden's going to get a podium, there it goes.
So finishing up the replay from SRCA, and then we'll see what happens here with Spencer Madden. But yeah, unfortunately, SRCA runs wide, and that's going to cost him a lot of time, probably a chance at that position from Falkingham. And we'll just watch on board from Spencer Madden as he's had an issue. So we'll go on board here with the number 6 machine. Right now on the replay, he's entering turns 6 and 7. And then, yeah, that's where it is. Just spins out and gives that spot up to Falkingham.
Now, I think Spencer actually has not too big of a gap. Well, I stand corrected. The cameras here look a little deceiving. That's going to be a pretty big gap between him and Daniel Falkingham, so we don't know if he can get that back, but Spencer Madden's still going to have a 4th place run even after spinning the car twice tonight.
And Falkingham has that issue, completely wrecks the race car in the bus stop, and unless Spencer Madden on this final lap makes up 4 seconds, he's going to get back onto the podium, only losing 1 position overall as Scott McIntyre enters the oval for the last time tonight. We totally missed that white flag, but Scott McIntyre on the last lap of the race going to wrap this one up. He has 21 seconds back to Russ Addy, who's actually losing time to the 16. So the number 111 teammate to the 16 machine should wrap up P2. He's got a 15-second gap back to Daniel Falkingham, but a massive gap between them. Teammates still going to wipe out the top 2 positions here tonight. McIntyre through the bus stop for the last time. You see those blue wheels light up back onto the oval as he runs through oval 3 and 4 to claim this victory.
And Scott McIntyre heading off a NASCAR turn 4. We've seen him have problems the last 2 weeks, wrecked out on the last lap, going for the win at Watkins Glen. But as he heads off a NASCAR turn 4, he's going to bring it home to win the Grand Prix of Daytona. Here he comes to the line, throws it up to the high side. Scott McIntyre takes the checker flag.
So a great win there from McIntyre, a commanding win, I think, to put himself back into a really good spot in the points. And meanwhile, Russ Addy going to exit oval 4. He's got a lap car in front of him that should be Coolham in the 86, but he's going to come across the line and take the 2nd position in this race. Daniel Falkingham some 15 seconds back. He's finally exiting oval 4. Is actually could have a battle to the line here, maybe. I don't think SRCA is going to have enough draft, but he's certainly going to try. This would be for the 4th position. I don't think it's going to happen. So Falkingham crosses the line. He takes 3rd. Spencer Madden, man, that, I think, just another 500 feet, and SRCA would have had something for Madden, but it's going to be Madden over SRCA for 4th and 5th. Aldis Puticlis going to come back to a 6th place finish, it looks like. He's exiting the oval 3 and 4. Now makes that spot up over Mark Bredbenner, so a really good comeback for the Latvian. He's going to try and protect his points lead a little bit. Redbender then will come across 7th here in a moment. Ian Wilson 8th, Justin Ford 9th, and Richard Coulomb, we saw him get lapped on the last lap there, so he's going to take the 10th position.
And Tom Mercer is going to be unofficially 11th, Elijah Gracia 12th, Steven Turner is going to come home 13th, Joshua Stevens 14th, and after that's going to be Nathan Fuller, which will lead us into our DNFs of the night, which were David Shutt, Timothy Bates, Michael Overbay, Nathan Lewis, John Morgan, Will Klein, Sheldon Lockheed, and then we had 3 cars not even start the race.
And you see those there at the end. Rick Raven, actually, who is really good, obviously, in the IndyCars. That skill should at least kind of transverse into the Pro Mazdas a little bit, but he doesn't make the start of the race. Not sure what the issue is there. And James McGordy, same thing. Doesn't make the start of the race. That's the first time I've seen that name. Looks like he's a newbie. And Tommy Gossett doesn't make the start of the race. So those 3 officially 25 laps down, but never made the green flag. So we'll go ahead. We'll step out of the booth for a moment, catch a breath of fresh air. It's so important these days, apparently. And we'll be back to you here in a moment after commercial break. This is Pit Stop TV with coverage of the SRCA Pro F2000 Series at Daytona. And welcome back to the Daytona International Speedway. Cole Freilich, I believe you already have Mark Redbender ready to talk to him. He finishes 7th. Go ahead.
And Mark Redbender, you got a copy, bud.
I'm here.
All right. Well, a solid seventh place finish run tonight. Just tell us how your race went mainly.
Pretty well. I just a lot of racing by myself.
Well,
Um,
oh, go ahead.
I did have
Having some issues hearing you, Mark.
I'm sorry. Is that any better?
Yeah, we
Yeah,
got
let
you
me
now.
turn your volume up as well. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just say I'm just staying out of trouble, but taking second.
Still having some trouble hearing you. It sounds like you're cutting out.
I'm sorry. It's probably this mic.
Yeah, no worries, bud.
Had a clean race as I could, and just
Well, we're going to go ahead and we're going to try and get Mark afterwards. Cole, go ahead and try and sort that out with him. I'll move you guys both back down there. Meanwhile, I'm going to talk to Aldous, and we're going to get Aldous Puticlis up in the booth. Aldous, do you have a copy?
Yeah, I do.
Well, Aldous, a couple of mic issues there from Mark. I think we'll be talking to him in a moment. But meanwhile, we roll up to you, P6 for the 666, and it looked like it could have been a whole lot worse. But before that, it looked like it could have been a whole lot better. What happened to you there?
Well, I touched a little bit that apron and it just dragged me to the grass, and I never thought that they will shoot me in the sky like that, you know. So that was straight up in the wall. So I nearly gave up actually because I had a 2.5 minutes tow. So I thought that's it, but you know, every point counts. So I said, let's go for it, and then was pushing hard really. So I'm happy with the P6 being only like what minute and 8 seconds behind leader is all right after what happened.
Yeah, I was pretty perplexed by it too when you hit the end of that curbing and just got shot in the sky. I thought at first you just got in the grass because I saw you get in the grass. The camera cut away from you for a moment and then brought you back as you were slamming the pit wall. So I thought you just got loose. I looked back at it and you're 5 feet in the air, and I was pretty amazed that that car, first of all, got that high, was going fast enough to get that high, but also that the curb shot you up like that. But still, I think a pretty good comeback. You marched back through the field a little bit up to P6. What were you doing? What were you thinking as you were trying to get back through the field a little bit?
I was just pushing. I had nothing to lose, absolutely nothing. You know, I was just pushing as hard as I could. And I think when I was looking at that relative screen, I was actually gaining time on Scott as well. You know, I was just hoping at everybody's mistakes, really, nothing else I could do. But yeah, the pace was there, so I used my fast repair, and yeah, that's it. You know, P6 is not that bad considering things.
No, definitely not. And coming in as the points leader, obviously, you want to have a better day, but still not too bad for you. Looking forward to the rest of the season. How do you think you end up for these guys? Do you think you have a shot to hang on to the championship, or do you think these guys might have something for you?
Well, Scott is always there, and Scott is always fast. You know, it's tactics and everything. You know, I actually wanted to play tactically today as well, but that didn't go to plan. But we'll see, we'll see. Scott is definitely fast, so I think two of us will definitely fight for it.
Well, before we let you go here, who do you have to thank for this pretty good run? P6, again, could have been a whole lot better. You were mixing it up with the leaders, but come up a little bit short in the end. But who do you have to thank for it?
Definitely Aisha for the league, you guys for broadcasting, and my team, Kinetic Racing.
All right. Well, it was good talking to you as always, Aldous. Hopefully, we'll be talking to you next week. We usually are. And hopefully, you have a good week.
Yeah, you too, guys. Stay safe.
So that was Aldous Puticlis. Cole, I'll turn it back over to you. Do we have Mark Breadbender?
Yeah, I think we do have Mark Breadbender. Mark, finally, we'll go ahead here. How was your race, bud?
it was pretty good. I just used my usual strategy, trying to stay out of trouble. Did have Ian Wilson kind of nipping at me the entire time, just getting a few tenths every couple laps. And of course, Aldous came back after his off and passed us both in the last two laps.
Well, it looks like you've been staying pretty consistent in trying to keep your nose clean. Is there any strategy trying to move forward and grabbing any points here late in the going?
That's pretty much been the strategy. A lot of these guys are much faster, more experienced than I am. So I just try to keep my nose clean and stay out of trouble.
All right. Well, who do you have to thank tonight for your run?
Well, I definitely have to thank Elijah for putting the whole league together. He's done some yeoman's work keeping it running, and of course the two of you for and Pit Stop TV for broadcasting us.
All right. Well, thanks, Mark, and I hope to see you back here in the future.
Look forward to it. Take care, guys.
So that was Mark Breadbinner, and I think we're going to bring in Daniel Falkingham now, who just moved into the booth with us. Daniel, you got a copy?
Yep.
All right, bud. Third place run tonight, but you think you could have done better?
Yep. I will say I definitely got lucky when we had that incident in the bus stop with David Shutt spinning around. We had to cut the course just to miss him. We lost track with the leaders, but through some draft and stuff, I was able to close the gap back down a little bit. Got it down to like 4.5 to 5 seconds. Then through pit stops, I was up to 3.5 seconds. But unfortunately, I broke my right front suspension when I was trying to lead the pits, and apparently I hit a stupid bump which shot me straight into the wall. So coming out of the pits, so now I had to come back, get a fast repair, get that repaired. I thought I could continue on with it, but I also realized that I didn't have enough fuel either to finish the race, so I pretty much sealed my fate. So I had to come down and get fuel in it, and then on my way back to coming down through the bus stop trying to get to the pits, I ended up bending it into the tires, and I lost even more time. But we got back to the podium thanks to Spencer spinning out. But I think if we didn't bend it, we maybe got a shot, maybe at second. But I definitely feel like we could definitely had a shot to win the race. But that's just the way it goes.
Well, you've only had 3 starts this season, and you've been pretty consistent in all of them. Well, first off, do you plan to make more starts, and what's the strategy moving forward towards the end of the season?
Yeah, I plan to make more starts. I just haven't been here as often as I should be, but I should be able to. I should be able to make the rest of the races, no problem. But just the thing out here is we're gonna try to see if we can go get some wins. I definitely feel like I'm getting better every week, so a lot better than where we were last season. So we're definitely gonna try to improve and see if we can go get a win or two. I like definitely try to win a race on one of the road courses because I definitely like to show my strength against Oldest and Sky, who I think are the best, and Harley, who I think are the big 3 of this series pretty much. So I definitely like to show my strength against them and see if we can get a win or two maybe.
Well, we're fixing to let you go here since I know you got to get ready to stream NIS tonight. But who do you got to thank for your third place run tonight?
Yeah, I got to thank you guys for putting on the broadcast. Thank Elijah for putting on the league. And got to thank everyone who comes on races each and every weekend. Thank you guys. Oh, well, thank you guys again for the broadcast. Thanks to everyone who watched the race.
All right, thank you, Daniel. That was your third place finisher, Daniel Falkingham.
It's always good to get to talk to Falkingham as well as its oldest, and good to talk to Breadbinner finally. We do have an update to your point standings, as we'll go ahead and pull that up. I don't have it on the screen for you, unfortunately, but Scott McIntyre is going to overtake Oldest Puticlus. He's going to move into P1 and has a gap of just 6 points going into Laguna Seca next weekend, in 2 Thursdays actually. I had to totally think about the schedule in front of me. John Morgan's going to lose the points lead, drop into P3, it looks like. Or actually, I don't think he even lost the points lead. I don't think he was the points leader to begin with. But either way, he loses 2 spots, falls into 3rd. Elijah Gracia is going to be P4. Russ Addy 5th. Those guys separated by all of 44 points. So the point standings get totally blown out of the water. It was really close coming into tonight, Cole. And now a whole lot of switching for positions. But really that lead battle has completely blown up.
Yeah, we had 3 cars within about 8 points of each other, and now it's just 2 cars within 6 points of each other. The nearest car back is 24 points, and that is going to be the car of John Morgan. So really just a topsy-turvy night for most of our points contenders. And Scott McIntyre kind of strived through all the troubles that everybody else had.
Yeah, and the reason all of that changes up, you're going to see on the right side of your screen here, the results. Again, Scott McIntyre comes up with a big win and actually catapults himself way ahead of Oldest Puticlus, and that's going to be for the points lead. Puticlus falls back to 2nd place by about 6 points. So the position and the number that makes up all 3 digits of his number for Puticlus going to be the deficit up to the 16. And you see from there, behind McIntyre, teammate Rossetti gains a whole lot of positions in the points. He's up to, I believe, fifth or so in around that area by virtue of finishing second. Then it's Falkingham. He made some strides in the points as well. Madden finishes fourth. David Sartor actually has moved into the top 20 in points after just 2 races. Gains 11 positions tonight in the point standings by finishing 15th, finishing 5th rather, commanding top 5 out of him just by outlasting the rest of the field, even though he finished 42 seconds behind the leader. Puticlis, we've already mentioned him finishing 6th, Bredbender finishing 7th, then it's Wilson, Ford, and Coulomb rounding out your top 10, Cole.
And then Tom Mercier came home with 11th, Elijah Gracia with 12th, Joshua Stevens, one of the rookies, he's followed by Steven Turner. They finished 13th and 14th. And Nathan Fuller, the third of our new rookies, finished 15th. So a good showing from those guys tonight. David Shutt finished 16th after crashing out. Timothy Bates finished 17th. Michael Overbay finished 18th. Nathan Lewis 19th. And John Morgan 20th.
And your back 5 tonight going to be Will Klein. He exited after just 5 laps. Sheldon Lockie also exited pretty early. He finishes 22nd after exiting after 2. So they come home 20 and 23 laps down respectively. Then the 3 that didn't make the start, Rick Ravon, James McGroarty, and Tommy Gossett. Never made the grid, never made to the start of the race, unfortunately, those 3, as they come home 23rd, 24th, and 25th officially, really unofficially. We'll see if they even get points scored tonight, Cole, but as always, fun to have you alongside of me and fun to cover one of these races here for the SRCA. And, certainly just, I think, was a thriller there in the beginning, but unfortunately just kind of settled down as the race went on. You saw David Shutt have issues, Daniel Falkingham, Aldous Puticlis, the pit stops obviously came in to blow things up. And really, what was a really good race just suddenly fell to pieces.
Well, it seemed like if you were in that top 7 battle, you had a problem at some point tonight because of how many cars we saw spin out or have troubles just going off anywhere. Scott McIntyre really just drove a flawless race, and I think that's the reason he came out to win tonight.
Absolutely. Want to quickly thank a couple of sponsors, those being Whiplash Media, our new parent company there. You can get all kinds of sim racing assets from Whiplash Media, be it paint schemes, camera packs, which are done by us at Pit Stop TV. I'll give a shout out to Pit Road TV actually here in a moment, but Pit Stop TV, obviously we make these cameras each week for you to see these race cars. You can get those from us over at Whiplash Media. I already mentioned paint schemes, streaming assets, really anything that relates to iRacing and multimedias, even cover photos, hero cards, anything like that, you can come to Whiplash Media for. And we even do some real-life stuff, real-life photography in there as well, and paint scheme designs and hero card designs and such like that. You can get it at Whiplash Media. Happy to be pushing that brand now. Also, David Levine Racing, he's got a new Champ Car Endurance car. It is a 1992 Miata. You can see a new video of it going around Carolina Motorsports Park from back in February on his YouTube channel, and you can get a link to that on his Facebook. Make sure to follow David Levine Racing on Facebook. And that's really going to do it for us. We have a couple of other sponsors kind of in that lineup for the Lucky Dog Sim Racing League. So make sure to watch that series as we go to Lime Rock Park this upcoming Tuesday night. Around 11:30 p.m. Eastern is when we get the race or the practice going. So you can look for us live around midnight Eastern, Wednesday morning actually. So make sure to watch out for that race. Hawk Performance will be giving away a set of brake pads, maybe even shoes, to each race winner, and I believe that goes for both race classes. I'll get confirmation on that soon enough. But to each race winner, not just the series champions. So wanted to quickly bring that up and correct myself from a couple of nights ago. But Cole, it's been fun as always. The IndyCars go to Indianapolis next week and Laguna Seca for the Pro Mazdas in a couple of weeks. We'll be seeing you then. Until then, this has been Pit Stop TV. We thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
We got big-time problems with that motor, buddy. Hey, just between you and me, the idea is to avoid the other cars. Congratulations! You just set the sport back 30 years with that move. That move will put you in the Hall of Shame. You keep doing stuff like that and we're going to lose our sponsor. Looks like that's it for us today. Now I know why you got canned by your old team. It's over. We can't fix that damage. Looks like your car is toast. You'll need a tow back to pit lane, press and hold your reset button, and we'll come and get you.